Having successfully launched 3 businesses, bilingual mum to 2 and entrepreneur Antonia Bozan-Brown has connected with thousands of people, both French and international, since moving to the French Riviera. These connections allow her to speak with successful local businesses and inspirational people about life here on the Côte d'Azur and share it with you. Welcome to the Riviera Firefly podcast with your host, entrepreneur, and my mum, Antonia Bozan-Brown.
Welcome to our second show in Series 2. This is episode 24, where we're going to meet Christine Kjeldberg from CK Health. Christine is a very experienced nutrition coach and fitness instructor. And despite being married to an international football player, we didn't spend the whole morning talking about the offside rule. Well, actually, I lie. We did spend the whole morning talking about football, and we just edited that bit out. So I'm going to leave you with the bits that we left in for the podcast, which was all about nutrition and fitness. And my big takeaways from this morning's chat was around how to get vitamins and nutritions into my teens. It's also something that you can use for toddlers and for husbands and wives too. It's something for everyone. And I also loved her idea of the one-to-one nutritional coaching sessions. We hear about personal trainers in the fitness world, but not so much about personal trainers in the nutritional world. And we can really get something out of this that's going to give us the best for our bodies and get all the nutrients out of the food that we eat. Christine's probably best known for her Pilates studio and workshops and the Xtend Barr classes. So it was great for me to get an opportunity to delve into what she's been recently doing. So she's doing a master's, researching and learning all about nutrition. And this has enabled her to tweak her very successful Cleanse Reboot program and make it into something even better. They're running that course right now, and the next one's in spring. You can sign up, and details will be at the end on how you can do that. On the subject of studying, well, it's such a great thing to do. I'm a huge fan. Either you might be someone that's keeping it going after you leave school or university, or perhaps you've had a break and you've been toying with the idea of getting back into it and doing something for yourself. Well, I love continued learning for myself. I find it empowering, I find it enriching, and as a small business owner, I don't have a boss that sends me off to do courses. So I have to make sure that I sign myself up on them, that I get into new subjects or that I take new ones to a deeper level. Obviously, running the business, Kiddoland, and being a full-time out-of-school mum, I don't have time on my side, so it's a bit of a challenge. It was much harder when the kids were tiny. I luckily have a very supportive husband at home, and when I found out about a course I really wanted to go and do, he was happy to be the chief child carer for the monthly, bi-monthly workshops that ran for the year. They were up in Grass, all around Montessori, and if you are pregnant and slightly interested in that subject, I really recommend you go along and do their little trial session and see whether you want to sign up and do more of them for the 0 to 3 and the 3 to 6 years. It's something that I thought was brilliant. I was able to introduce the learnings. I brought them home, shared them with Mr. BB. We really could change our home environment. It was fantastic. And I was also able to take them into Kiddoland, into the play groups, which are our little toddler groups where we're getting them ready for school. And we introduced the ideas that we love the best there. In fact, I actually persuaded some of my team to go off and do similar trainings up in Grass. Another course that I really enjoyed doing was while I was here in France, I got in contact with a college back in the UK and signed up for one of their courses for a diploma that was in child psychology. So again, that was over a year. I spent the time studying, researching and writing up my learnings on all the different themes and topics that we had to cover in that course. It was such a fantastic moment when my report came back in from my tutor, praising me on my hard work and dedication over the 12 months. And then a little while later, the shiny silver certificate plopped through the front door. And it really was a great reward and recognition for me personally after 4 years solid of changing nappies. In the last 12 months, what have I been doing? Well, I've been coming into close contact with Natalie Echtel and the Biz Chicks podcast and some of her business programs. And so I really have been learning things that have just changed my business life. I'll put some links to her podcast in the show notes. I'm actually going to be spending a week really soon with my mastermind buddies, working out our goals for 2018 and our strategy. Never have I done this in October for the following year. I'll share some of those tips with you another time in another podcast. But I am going to make sure that not only will these include some for work, but they will also, having spoken to Christine, take on the inspiration that I feel following that conversation with her. And I'm going to put something in my own learning goals for my own personal development into that mix for 2018. Without further ado, let's roll.
Welcome to the Riviera Firefly podcast to lifestyle and fitness nutrition expert, Christine Kjeldberg. Hi, Christine.
Hi, Antonia. Nice to be with you today.
How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Morning, haven't you? In the sunshine up in Maganyosk already. What have you been up to today already?
I've taught an Xtend Barr class, and I've also taught a Pilates or mat work core class this morning.
And just so our listeners know, it's only 11:30, so that's pretty good going for a Tuesday morning. I was looking at your bio, and you're a personal trainer, sports therapist. You're a stocked Pilates trainer, Xtend Barr, and you're also doing an MA, aren't you, right now?
An MSc, yeah. So I did a Bachelor of Science in Nutritional Therapy a few years back, finished in 2015, and then started having consultations with clients' nutrition, and then found actually I wanted more knowledge. So I embarked on the Masters of Science as well, which I complete in the next couple of months.
Goodness me, I bet that's keeping you super busy.
Yeah, it is. And I really enjoy keeping myself updated with the new research. And as you know, in the world we live in now, there's so many diseases popping up for various reasons. So it's always nice to be able to delve a bit deeper into whys and whatnots on those and see if there's anything that can do nutritionally.
Well, I'd love to talk about that a little bit later on. We'll talk about nutritional therapy. It sounds really fascinating. I wanted just to go back a little bit back in time to find out about Christine from before, like Christine as a child. What's your favourite childhood memory?
I've got several, but my favourite is actually burying my dad in the sand on holiday in Salcombe in Devon with my sister. She had to tell us to stop because the sand was getting into his ears, and I have a picture of that moment as well. And it was just, being on holiday in Devon with my brother, sister, and my mum and dad. It's one of my best memories.
Beautiful place. I remember childhood memories from there too. It's a really great
Yeah, it's a lovely part of the world. Must get my own kids there at some point.
Is that where you're originally from down there?
No, I'm actually originally born and brought up in Windsor with a Dutch mum and an English dad. My dad's originally from Manchester, but moved down to the south with his parents, work reasons. Born and brought up there.
And what brought you over here to the Côte d'Azur then?
My husband, although originally we went from the UK to Denmark because of his work, but he's always wanted to live in France. And he played football and travelled a lot playing football, but he didn't actually end up living in France where he wanted to. He ended up living instead. So I suppose something good came out of that. But when the opportunity arose, we came down here.
And are you a big football fan? Is that, would you have considered yourself to be a big football fan from back in the day?
No, I mean, I liked football when it was sort of World Cup, European Cup time, and there was sort of a bit of a hype going on around us. But apart from that, no, I wasn't interested at all. And I didn't have a clue who he was when I met him.
You can't do the offside rule
No. So none of that. Can't help you out there.
It's kind of similar. Well, same as you actually. I like it when it's kind of World Cup and stuff like that. It's interesting, but
it's a nice hype around at that time, and everyone seems to be around the TV and supporting their country, and I think that's quite nice.
Who are you able to support in that then? Is it England? Is it France?
I have one foot with the English lot and one foot with the Dutch lot.
Of course, you wouldn't be allowed.
Because I've always felt myself having a Dutch mum and having also plenty of holidays in Holland, partially Dutch, which I am. And having the rest of the family being born in Denmark, it can be conflicting at times.
I bet. It's kind of hard, isn't it? All the allegiances that kind of come to mind. Like if England get knocked out, I'll be like, okay, it's time to support France now.
Yeah. I have to say France now for me is my fourth, because I'd have to do England, Holland, Denmark, and then France. So they come in a good fourth of the team.
Tell me a little bit about nutritional therapy, just because that's current and that's what you're doing at the moment. What is it exactly?
Nutritional therapy it's looking at the way the whole body is operating as a system. So if you go to a hospital, if you're ill, you'll often be sent to a neurologist or a cardiologist or an orthopedic surgeon that are specialized in one particular area. Whereas nutritional therapists are more looking to find the cause of the problems, and they're often interrelated. So you're not necessarily pulling on one system, one bodily system. You're actually looking at the interactions that are going on between them and working out how you can regain balance between the systems. And it can be very complicated at times, but you need to be able to get to the root of the problem. If you consider a tree, you need to get to the roots that you don't actually see to be able to physically support the growth and the development, which is us as a whole. Otherwise, if you don't get to the cause of the problem, the problem won't go away. It's like putting a plaster on a cut. You're just stopping the problem for a little while, but you won't actually make the problem go away. Food combinations, but also deficiencies. Many of us are actually deficient in vitamins and minerals, and gut flora, especially gut flora is a big one because of the huge amount of antibiotics that are given out these days, which kill off the gut flora, which we need. It's supportive to our system. So yeah, there's a variety of different angles you can come at nutritional therapy from, and sometimes it can be pure coaching with people mentally. It could be a stress issue going on, but if it's something that's out of my capabilities, I'll pass on to someone that's a bit more qualified.
What kind of things would you say, we're just approaching into the last part of 2017 now? I can see that colds are starting to come out, viruses, gastros in my work and stuff like that. Are there any tips that you can share with us of things that maybe people could be doing to boost their immunity in the run into winter?
Yeah, well, nutrition-wise, you need to be looking, again, it's the probiotics that I said that support the gut, because your gut flora contains much protective bacteria as well to fight off viruses, infections. Should do if it's in the right balance in your body, but sometimes...
Where would you get them? From the chemist?
You can get them in the chemist. You want to look, if you're buying them locally, for a multi-strain and not looking just for one particular strain, because then you're covering sort of more different types of bacteria in your body, and going for, several million, because we've got trillions of bacteria in our guts. So just popping, 1 million in, it's like popping a needle into a haystack. It's not really going to do much. So you need to sort of up the load of bacteria that you're popping in. But everyone's different, and there are some bacteria that work better in certain situations than others. But that's one thing to look at, or eating fermented foods, or even having something like kombucha, but fermented pickles, the sauerkraut. I mean, not everyone likes it, but that sort of sauerkraut, the fermented cabbage at this time of year, is absolutely wonderful for the gut. And then looking at foods that contain zinc. Zinc is very supportive to the immune system, and a lot of us are actually deficient in zinc. Vitamin C in particular. And the one thing people don't realize is that sugar competes with vitamin C in the cells of your body. So a lot of these cough mixtures that people take are actually full of sugar. So you're just putting more and more sugar into your body rather than getting pure vitamin C in, which you can get through, fruits and vegetables, or even taking a supplement of vitamin C that is just that and isn't covered in sugar, because otherwise the sugar will get into the cell to the advantage of the vitamin C instead. And then making sure really that you have lots of nice things like chicken broths and vegetable soups, and eating plenty of cheese throughout the autumn and the winter, washing your hands several times, saying that to the kids anyway. Yeah, they're the main things.
You and I, we both have teenagers, and I don't know about you, but I went through phases when they were little. It was kind of easy to get them full of vitamin C. You got the crudité out, and they were having raw vegetables, that kind of thing. It is getting a bit more challenging in the teenage years. So things that might have worked before, like beetroot brownies or things like that, I look at with huge suspicion now. What do you do? What kind of things are you doing with your teenagers to
Okay, my two love smoothies.
Okay.
And I don't know many teenagers that don't. And you can make them in various combinations, and whether it's a raw chocolate one with coconut milk or almond milk, and then you can put a spoonful of probiotic or open, capsules if you've got vitamins, minerals, and stick those in there. They don't even know in there. And also, the other thing that I forgot to say before was vitamin D. It's very supportive for the immune system. And even though we live on the Côte d'Azur where we get loads of sun, there are so many people here that are still deficient in vitamin D. Just because we get the sunlight doesn't mean that we have optimal levels. So sometimes I stick a few drops. I have vitamin D3 in drop form, and I stick that into the smoothie as well, or just into water. They don't even know they're getting it. It's the easy way to get it into teenagers. Yeah.
And soups too. I mean, my son, he might not like me saying this, but he doesn't like cooked vegetables very much. So he'll eat raw. He doesn't like them cooked because of the texture. So winter, casseroles and things like that, that's a lot harder. But if we put it all into soups and blend it up, then there's
no, that's a really good solution. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, I like those top tips. I'm always looking for easy wins in the kitchen as well. So like a really good. Tell me a little bit about Xtend Barr. I haven't really ever tried that before. I've heard of Pilates, but tell me, what's Xtend Barr exactly?
Xtend Barr is integrating some of the principles of Pilates. So we're looking very much at the posture while we're doing the exercises, but it's more dynamic than the Pilates. I mean, Pilates, if you've obviously got reformer or using machines, that's very dynamic as well. But we're more upright, using dance moves in there. We're even using weights, and we're doing very small repetitive movements as well. It's sort of mixing a lot of things into one form of training, and it's to pop music. So it's quite good fun, and people are sometimes singing along to a tune on the radio as well. They can.
What kind of age and fitness does it appeal to mainly?
I suppose those that I have, anything between young adults to 70 years old. Yeah. But I even have the odd child coming to class, especially if they're not in school, and joining in with their mums. So it's for everyone and all ages and abilities, because there's always modifications to the exercises and people do what they can do. So there's always a way I can make the exercise harder for those that have been there a lot, or a way an exercise can be made a bit easier.
And what about Pilates then? What style of Pilates are you teaching, and is it more one-to-one or group work?
It's more group work because I like the dynamics in a group class. Not to say that I won't do one-on-one classes. I do and have done several one-on-ones. And my classes are much more mat work based, sort of working on the mat, very much focusing on the core, so being the stomach muscles, neck muscles. So it's very different to the Xtend Barr class, but I'm also trained in the reformer, but I only have one reformer. So I do not do that in a group.
Is that one of those machines that looks quite scary?
Yes, it looks like a flat bed that the middle part moves, and it can add quite a lot of resistance. It's got straps on there and can add resistance to the arms and the legs, and obviously the stomach as well.
A thing of torture, no. So tell me about Cleanse Reboot as well, because I think you're busy on that at the moment, aren't you, with Jeff?
I am, yeah. It's a program I wrote just after completing my bachelor in nutritional therapy. And it's basically focusing on supporting the liver. So we have what's called toxic load that our body is capable of managing. So our liver accumulates toxins over time. And if we go over what's known as our toxic load, it can push us towards being ill and not being in such good health. So I suggest that people once or twice a year do a cleanse, which very much focuses on taking out inflammatory type of foods, the ones that are generally inflammation causing in the body, but it also focuses on watching what you put on your skin and what you're cleaning your house with, and what you're putting on your foods if you're keeping them in the fridge or even when you're cooking. And it's trying to reduce toxins that we're able to reduce, because there are so many toxins in our environment, more than 80,000 that are being released this century, and only few approved as being safe to our health. So it's trying to reduce the load where we can a couple of times a year. So in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Fascinating. And I've done some work with Julia Edgley before with the teenage Adderland, and we were making our own face products to take makeup off, but all from stuff you found in the kitchen. that kind of thing.
Yeah.
How long?
I actually had Julia in yesterday to speak to the group about stuff they could put on their skins. So yeah, it's a good combo with Julia, actually.
Yeah. How long does a Cleanse Reboot last for?
Well, I suggest that people do it for 2 weeks. People normally get to 12 days, and then it actually seems to be the alcohol that's the issue. They're desperately wanting the glass of wine at the weekend, because obviously sugar is one of the things that creates havoc on the body as well. So, but you know, if people can get through one weekend, they've tried and tested, and they've certainly done the body's a lot of good. So if they don't make the last 2 days, then that's not a problem either. But normally I suggest 2 weeks. And for the hardcore lot that really want to go for it, they do 3 weeks.
Oh my word. And does that involve having like a no eating day as well, where you might just be on like soups and smoothies? Or
I have integrated 3 liquid days, but it depends on the person, because there are certain people that I would say that I wouldn't recommend they did that at all. So it depends who I have in my group. But in general, yes, I do 3 liquid days, and it's to give digestion a rest, because digestion uses a lot of energy. And so all the energy goes to the liver to help it replenish and work hard at cleansing the body. So yeah.
I remember I did do with Karen Hockney about a week, and I sometimes will not eat in a day. It's absolutely fine. But when you're told you can't eat today, that was what I think about the food.
Yeah.
Another 12 hours.
Yeah, a lot of it's to do with preparation, and that's what we spend quite a bit of time talking about when I meet up with the group, is actually planning. So we actually get together a week before the program starts, and I talk to them about, you know, how they can better prepare for this as well, because they need to go out, and if they've got temptations in the cupboard, they'll need to get rid of those or hide them or eat them before it starts, and start cutting back gradually on things, because you don't want a sudden rush of the toxins from your cells or your tissues to go into the bloodstream, because you end up feeling rubbish. And most of us still have families to look after and jobs to do, so that wouldn't work. And yeah, it's all about the preparation. So even on the liquid days, people can prepare 3 different kinds of soups in advance and even freeze them down. And it's just about taking it out of the freezer the night before, and you've got it ready, because there's nothing worse than trying to stick to something and you're completely unprepared, and then you will end up taking stuff that you shouldn't be if you're following the program.
And does the group kind of stick together? So have you got a Facebook group or a WhatsApp group?
Yeah.
And they support each other through it then?
Yeah, I do. And everyone puts comments on there, and we all support each other. And no, it's nice. It's it's quite a nice little community for a while.
And so it's a good thing to, well, obviously you've got a group running now. When's your next group then going to be?
It's going to be in the spring, and I'm hoping to make a few small changes, because I'll have a bit more time on my hands having completed my master's. So yes, I'm always trying to change it and update things and press, because there are several people that want to do it with me as a group once or twice a year. So it's to keep them up to date and educated as well.
And what about Mimosa? Are you involved in that?
I am. I'm appointed their nutritionist. So also next year I hope to be working a little bit more with the Mimosa team. I have been supporting them where I can in the last couple of years, in the run up to the marathon and, you know, various bits and pieces like that. So yeah, hopefully 2018 is going to see a few more projects on the go with them.
Which is exciting. And if anyone wants to go back and hear about Mimosa, I did have a chat with Ellie and Karen in episode 16. So that's a good one to go back and listen to, why they set that up and its goals. Such a brilliant charity. And when is the marathon?
It's on the 5th of November this year, which is the last day of the school holidays.
And it's a fantastic event, and people are even welcome to come down to the end and help them celebrate at the end. And
yeah, just look out and cheer for the yellow T-shirts.
So apart from finishing your MSc, what's in line for you in 2018 then? What have we got to look forward to?
I'm going to be doing some more workshops. So it won't just be the Cleanse and Reboot. I have, a couple of years ago, run a hormonal workshop with Marcus Grasser, who does the Chinese medicine and shiatsu. So I think there's going to be more of things like that, and balancing blood sugar levels, but in a group situation, because it has a different dynamic, and maybe also sort of moving a little bit away from, because I focus my group presentations around the Grasse area, but I'm also looking at maybe being in Mushan, so it'd be more accessible for people down there, but also putting some stuff, recordings online, because I have a few people internationally that want to join in and listen to stuff, so it'd be accessible for them as well.
You're going video?
Yeah, maybe. And actually, I'm looking at also going back and doing some retraining with my exercise in London with the Xtend Barr, and actually I've got some ideas for developing a new class as well. So quite a lot. I'm taking a bit of holiday.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the kids, right? Because it's kind of an...
Yeah, I'll be supporting both of mine with exams next year, so...
Yeah. Oh, don't remind me. Having moved over here from England and having your sort of different cultures growing up and obviously through marriage, what kind of customs and traditions are you really enjoying here on the Côte d'Azur?
Okay, well, being a Brit, I love roses and I live very close to Grasse. And I really like fête de rose that they have here. My husband has to almost tie my hands behind my back, otherwise I will be buying more roses, and we've got about 150 bushes as it is in the garden. So,
rambling one for my garden. So.
Yeah, so I really like, they have small fêtes everywhere. They've got the Fête de la Courge in Châteauneuf this coming weekend, and you have the one to the Orange in Barcelona. All those small local fêtes, I think they're really lovely, and you don't really see that anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see it in Britain for sure.
No, and they sort of pull the community together. They're really lovely. There's always something to do.
Have you found it easy meeting people where you live?
I have. I mean, you have to move and come into a new country with an open mind and be prepared to speak to people of various nationalities. I mean, that's the beauty of living down here. But I'd say to people, avoid just seeking your own nationality. Be open-minded and challenge yourself to speak to other nationalities, because a lot of us are in the same boat here and it doesn't really matter where you come from. And yes, English could be a common language, but be very open-minded and flexible, and get on with the French community as well. So there's a lovely bunch of people down here and they do want to help. Some of them are very, very shy in the beginning, but if we make an effort, they'll make an effort back.
Do you belong to any book clubs or anything like that?
I haven't had time to belong to a book club. That may come. And I've been very much reading stuff that's appropriate to my studies. So actually, one of my favourite books is actually called Gut. And it's very readable to anyone. And it's by a young doctor called Riviera&nbsp, a German doctor. And she has written a very, very clever and also amusing book on gut health, and it is really, really worth a read.
Excellent. Well, I will add that. I'll look her name up and put it in the show notes, because it is important at this time of year particularly. I think lots of people do start to think, well, it's the new year coming up in a couple of months, time to get some good practices into place for the 2018. Yeah. So that sounds like it could be a good stocking filler.
It's a really useful one. It's really, really good.
And an easy read. So tell me how people can get in touch with you. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Always via my mobile is easy. I do have a web page, which is ckhealth.com, and there's a link where you can send an email to me from that. So that'd be the most direct ways. It's ck-and then health.com.
Okay, yeah.
And yes, either go into that or write to Christine at ck-health.com. That would also come through to me, or my mobile number.
What would sum you up in a quote?
Okay, I read a book many, many years ago, and there's one quote from that book that has stuck with me from late teens and throughout adulthood, which, if I'm feeling challenged, is really useful. And it's Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which is "Feel the fear and do it anyway."
Love that one.
Yeah, and basically sometimes I do waver and want to stay within my comfort zone, and I need to push myself to get, out on the other side and take on new things. And even, studying a degree later on in life, all of this has been quite a challenge. So that's something that has stuck with me and makes me take on new things throughout life. And we've only got one life, so,
You're owning that one.
I am.
Going back to study, particularly at that level, it's a big ask, isn't it? Because when you get from studying and out of uni and that kind of thing, it is a big ask to get back into the books, especially at that level that you need to be analysing at and reading at.
Yeah, it is. And there is quite a big jump from the bachelor to the master's, I found out.
Not long now.
Yeah, not long.
Christine, thank you so much. I find that inspiring and motivating. I can't wait to listen to it back again, and then I will get some notes down. And yeah, so people can come and book now with you if they wanted to have a coaching session. I'm very interested to find out more about the imbalances in food and about hormones next year. I think that's something that people of the 40 plus are definitely talking about a lot more.
Yeah. And
obviously sugar being the big enemy, that is very topical.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Christine, for taking some time out of your busy schedule to come and chat to us.
It's lovely to be with you.
Thank you.
It's lovely to be with you. Thank you very much.
This episode was brought to you by Riviera Firefly for Cote Living by your host and my mum, Antonia Beauvoisin-Brown. Please subscribe, like and share. Until the next time, au revoir les Fireflies.